What's up guys? Matt, Legacy 4x4, back again working on Sprint car buggy. Kind of my only big project right now. So this video we're gonna do the headers, we're gonna mount the seat and finish up some shifter linkages and small stuff. In the corner you can see I got my Optima mounted already, so I've been doing little stuff off camera, but no biggies, that's just welding and a mount, putting some bolts through it, so not a big deal. Anyways, let's talk headers. These are Suzuki Samurai headers. I'll be modifying these to fit a motorcycle silencer slash muffler. I'm gonna drop it down right through the skid plate and mount the silencer to the end of it. Should be pretty sweet all in all. The first thing I'm gonna do to start this project is cut off these middle two header tubes. I am going to mount the silencer to the outer tubes itself, kind of like this. And then from there, I will then remerge some new tubes into the downpipe into the silencer. There'll be a little bit of backflow, but I'm not worried about it. It's a Suzuki Samurai on propane with 2 transmissions, so a little bit of backflow is not going to hurt anything. So I'm going to get these prepped for beginning to measure out where everything needs to go. I just know these first 2 are going to come off, so I'm going to cut these out, get it lined up on the engine, and then we can talk about what we're going to do next. Okay, to start, I cut a rough hole through the skid plate where the silencer is going to drop through. The tip of the silencer, that is. So I'm just going to rest this in place and kind of start doing some beer math on where I want it to sit, how far down I want it to sit, etc. And that probably right there is somewhat adequate. So I'll go grab the headers. And again, 2 middle tubes are cut off. This is all mild steel, so it's all weldable steel. Big, thick flange. Should be really easy to make these work, I hope. Anyways, we'll start dropping it in place and just kind of seeing where we line up. And of course, this is going to be in the way. So if we have the headers in place, we're pointing directly at this hole, but the gap between both of these interferences is a little too tight. So I'm going to take the silencer out. Maybe I can swing this up through here eventually. So with that being said, I'm going to cut out this skid plate a little more, swing it up from the bottom, and keep beer mapping this till it works. Okay, so as you can see, everything's resting in place. That's about 4 inches below the skid plate. That's a little too far below the skid plate for my liking. Not quite resting in place, but resting close enough to in place. There's still a gap right there. As you can see, we're gonna have to crank that tubing at kind of a hard angle to get that to fit and fix the gap. So I'm gonna go ahead and notch some more out of the header tube, trying to get it to lay flat, and hopefully have something that I can weld the 2 steel pieces together, even if it's at a little bit of an angle. As long as it goes through that downpipe exit, I'll be perfectly happy with it. All right, guys, so beer mathing is not working. I'm running into some trouble getting it to fit, and before just plasma cutting the whole skid plate off and just making something work and then redoing the skid plate, I'm going to cut everything off these header flange and then do one at a time. So that's gonna be my goal. Yeah, that's gonna be the goal. I'm going to go reset, leave this muffler in place, and then just build custom headers like you do normal custom headers. So. All right, so we got the flange and everything fully welded. We tacked it in on the vehicle, brought it over here, did a full pass on it. So everything's fully welded, it's still hot. Now we're gonna start taking the other parts of the flanges and cutting and shortening, kind of finding some tube bends that are gonna pipe cut into the rest of the piping. First things first, I'm gonna cut some length off the #1 cylinder and some length off the end of the #1 cylinder, and hopefully that can kind of pie its way in. Okay, I got an old piece of the other tube on the header cut. We're gonna rest this one in place right about here, cut a little bit off here to get that pie cut nice and even, as well as cut a little bit off here, and then smash it through the hammer down in order to get this flat, and then cut an insert out right here for this collector to go into. So that's the way it works. It's kind of just trial and error. In any case, I will see you guys in a little bit. So don't mind the 15 layers of weld. I'll do one final pass at the end and maybe make it look pretty, maybe not, we'll see. I cut out my very last, actually cylinder #1 import port into my makeshift welded collector. It's getting sketchy, but I think it'll be fine. I'm not too terribly worried about it. In either case, here's my last piece. This is actually a grew tubing, Schedule 40. Gonna weld it here, so it'll be a little bit thicker than the other stuff, but it should still well fine and hold in place. So Stick this on here, weld it just like so, cover up the back end, hit it with the hammer, make it all flush, and we'll have custom headers. All right guys, so headers are done, ceramic coated. This is how they turned out. Everything is obviously fully welded and then ceramic coated flat. So I'm gonna shove these back onto the Samurai and then we'll get going with the rest of our work that we have to do on it. So see you guys in a bit. Okay, so to wire this seat, it's pretty simple. We have a piece of 1/4 inch, 23 by 2 inch CNC cut mild steel. We're gonna go ahead and bolt that to the bottom of the seat before we get the seat in place, and then do what we always do, and then build off that mild steel support. So that's how it's gonna work. You can also see the 3 hot wires I have running to it. That's to keep all the seat motors working and fully functional. Let's go over to the CNC, cut another one of these 23 by 2 inch pieces of steel, and get everything lined up, bolted in place, and line the seat up and mount it. Should be pretty quick. Okay, so here we are, new seat position. It's a lot better, it's a lot more friendly. The pedal situation will work out when we get there, but I have a solution for it with how it sits, so I'm happy with it. We're going to get to welding in some of those bolted-in steel gussets, as well as getting the rest of it mounted. So that's the seat. Okay, so seats are fully mounted in place, everything's welded in, and the seat's there to stay. I will say I have no gusset in this triangle section right here, since when I skin the buggy, I'll be taking care of that gusset area, so I don't want to overweld right now and then not have ability to skin that area. So for now, those are blank, but it is welded in, everything's hard welded in place. And just as we imagined, we're quickly running out of room on the undercarriage of this. Battery's in place, but there's about 1 inch to spare underneath the seat, and the transfer case and transmission are also packed under the seat. Here's how the seat looks straight on. It is a Acura TLX seat. It's not quite a bucket seat, but for $100, it's gonna do the job. So I'm happy with that. That's in place, and we can get to working on the rest of this buggy. And of course, same thing for this side. No gussets here, just have it hard mounted in on the 1/4 inch sheet, as well as the back corner right there. Eventually, when this gets skinned, I'll gusset and support it more. But for now, seat's hard mounted in place. I'm happy with it. For the shifter, nice vintage Snap-on torque meter that I had. Doesn't work, that's why it's cut up and now a shifter. So that's in place, that's how the shifter works. And we are in a sprint car application, so it's gonna be tight for the pedals. Let me explain to you how I think the pedals are gonna work at this current point in time. So here we are above the buggy looking down into the cockpit, and we're gonna have room for a brake pedal on the left and a gas pedal on the right, slightly elevated, more elevated than the left side, since the front drive shaft carrier bearing is gonna be right under your foot. And the clutch. As you can see, clutch linkage coming off the transmission right there. We're gonna do a hand clutch linkage, and we're gonna hand operate it, and that's how it's gonna work. So you're basically gonna throw it in a gear, and that's the gear you're stuck with till you come to a stop, probably. With the 400-to-1 gearing I have, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to start this in 5th gear, so I'm not too worried about it. Either way though, Sprint Car 2 buggy. It's getting funky. We're doing a little bit of sketchiness in here, but hopefully it just works at the end of the day. So I'm gonna go ahead and paint those welds, so I just put a coat of paint on them real quick, and we're gonna call this video done. Next time, I think we're gonna work on maybe front axle, since we do have to get that axle mounted at some point, or maybe just some other generic accessories. My part pile is overflowing, so if I throw the accessories on next, it's just my OCD, I'm trying to get them out. Either way, I will see you guys next week for more Sprint Car stuff. See you guys in a week.